Hi, Brother Sundiata. Thank you so much for joining the CAIR blog.
Thank you. And it's nice to be here.
Well, I just wanted to start off by asking um, if you could talk about your role at Lighthouse Mosque and how you came to be in that position.
In the beginning, I was just specifically just supposed to be kind of more like doing operations. So making sure that the kutbahs was lined up, making sure that the different classes, and then the imam's position was more like the spiritual leader. So alhamdulillah. One day I woke up and everybody was calling me Imam Sunday.
What are some of the topics when you either recently or in the past have given talks that you like to focus on?
I like to talk a lot. So I feel like Islam, when it comes into an area, it definitely has to speak to the people in that area. So, I try to give talks. I try to take like my understanding of Islamic teachings, not saying that it's necessarily the correct one, and try to make that apply to living in the United States in the 22nd or 21st century, 2022. And so over the years, I've tried to make my talks and things so that they kind of like fit people's lives today and not just, you know, I don't want to just kind of like take, I don't want it to just be like a history. I feel like if we learn from history, that's better than just knowing history. So I try to take, what happened in different times in Islamic history or the time life of the prophet, and try to compare or try to focus in on how those things are the same as some of the same things we're dealing with today, how they dealt with it, and then also how we could kind of tailor fit things more to our reality. So I try to make things, as relevant as I can. That's what my intention is. I don't know if I'm always that successful, but that's what I definitely try to do.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I know that you've studied the history of Black Muslims in the Bay Area, and just wanted to ask you, what are some events that have stood out as meaningful to you?
So the Bay Area is just, as far as Islam goes, it's a very significant place. So like some of the some of the movements, the broad, even CAIR, I believe CAIR was started in the Bay Area. You know what I'm saying? Even though it's a nationwide movement
Mm-hmm.
now, or it's a nationwide organization whose, I think its offices now, the main offices might be in DC, but they
Yeah.
they got their kind of start here. And like if you just look at some of the figures that have lived here, when you talk about African American Muslim history, you have one of the big things was the Nation of Islam. That might have been one of the biggest movement that most people identify with. And definitely Elijah Muhammad's son and a lot of his nephews and stuff, but his son Imam W.D. Muhammad used to live in Oakland after Elijah Muhammad passed, when he first took over, like in the 80s, early 80s. So those kind of things. And even if you look at, like, people like Imam Zayd Shaker used to live in Oakland. There's a movement called the Jamaat Shehu that patterned itself out after the teachings of a man named Usman Danfodio, who used to live in Nigeria.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the guys who kind of helped bring that movement to the United States, Sheikh Muhammad Sharif, he used to live in Oakland. So even people like Usama Cannon, who started Talib, he might not have lived in Oakland, but he's definitely a Bay Area person. So I feel like for the Bay Area to be such a small place, and this is even outside of just the realm of Islam, things from the Bay have always shaped the United States. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
But definitely, what happens with, what people suffer from or benefit from in a large society, Muslims suffer from and benefit from those same things. So the
Mm-hmm.
fact that the Bay Area has always been a place, like a place that's, changed the game for the United States, also it's changed the game for Muslims. First time I feel like a lot of those different groups are starting to work together more, and
Mm-hmm.
it's and that's even reflected at the Lighthouse. Like when you
Mm.
come to the Lighthouse, you definitely see people who was more activist, Dar type Muslims, and you see people who was more followers of Imam W.D. Muhammad, all in the same place, worshiping together and working together. So,
Well, I was going to ask you about that because when I've been there doing Jummah outreach with CAIR, I noticed that it's a very diverse community. You know, there's Black Muslims, there's Muslims from different countries like themselves or the children of, and immigrants and people born in the U.S. And so, what are some of like the joys and challenges of leading such a diverse community?
you know, it's definitely a plus to, I one of the things, like Oakland has been like that my whole. I remember when my wife got into Howard University and we moved to DC. One of the things that we noticed was the mosques were kind of segregated. Like, okay, you got
Mm-hmm.
the mosques with all of the Indo Packs, you got the African American mosques that are in DC, and then you got the Arab mosques. But when we was in Oakland, everybody went to Masjid Al Islam, just like
Mm.
everybody now comes to the Lighthouse. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's always just been something for me that's just been a plus because it's kind of shows, you know, what Islam can be in America. You know what I'm saying? Like if we kind of, we bring our same hangups that we had to the table, then you're gonna have problems, right? Like if you was in a certain country and you looked at Salafis like this, or if you was in a certain country and you looked at Sufis in a certain way, if you bring that same hang up to the United States, the mosques are going to be kind of like, they're not going to be that eclectic because people bringing their own vested interests with them. You know what I'm saying? But I feel like one thing about America is just a chance for people to kind of break those old barriers and kind of reach out, and I feel like that happens a lot at the African American mosque because African Americans don't necessarily have those hangups because they're converts. So you know what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm.
first time we convert, brother converts to Islam or sister converts to Islam, they still kind of they just don't automatically adapt to whatever is happening or been happening for the last 800 years in another
Yeah.
country. Alhamdulillah. So, and I feel like that's one of the things that the Lighthouse, I feel like it's a plus. There might be some disadvantages, but I can't really. I feel like even if you talk about anything, the more diverse you are, the stronger you're going to be. Even if
Mm-hmm.
it's just opinions. If everybody has the same opinion, that opinion is not going to stand up to scrutiny because it's
Mm.
never been challenged.
Mm.
But if you got a bunch of different opinions bouncing around, the strongest ones is going to be the ones
Mm.
that stand out. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm. Yeah, that's a great way to say it.
alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah.
I know that you've done a lot of work on anti-Black racism, countering anti-Black racism in the Bay Area, and working in the Muslim community and the broader community. And what do you bring from your spiritual practice to that work?
It's funny. So I see you, alhamdulillah, you gave me the questions ahead of time. and I read that one and I thought about it. And I was, one of the things I feel like, you know, for I think one of the things when it comes to like anti-blackness and not even just in Islam, but just in America, period, a lot of the times what we don't realize or what we the peeps, if we got to keep in mind that the people with the problem are the ones with the racism.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I feel like sometimes we might lose track of the fact that, you know, we don't have a problem. The ones with the problem are the ones who are anti-black or
Yeah.
anti anything, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so, one of the things that I feel like, because you have just a historical pattern of just white supremacy in the United States, and it's affected everybody. You know what I'm saying? It's like the difference between Pharaoh and Moses, and today is now Pharaoh's on both sides of the Nile, right? He's like,
Right.
it's a global system, so you
Right.
can't just cross the river and get away. But
Right.
so I think that now, you know, my thing is like, I just feel like we just gotta change people's minds where we're at. You know what I'm saying? And so my 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 spiritual journey, I've seen people, change their whole lives around when they come to Islam. You know what I'm saying? So I feel
Mm-hmm.
like that's something that Islam can still do. And it's not only, as a Muslim, obviously, I'm gonna point out the fact, but I feel like it's people from other walks of life and other religions that they've been able to change their minds and change their lives and start being more positive. And so we just gotta promote that. You know what I'm saying? We gotta promote positive thinking.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a really good point, and interesting because my next question was, what has made the anti-racism work difficult for you?
The racist. No, I'm just
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, of course.
I think that sometimes it's just the implicit biases that people have. So like I remember, at one point in my life, I used to always wear like Islamic garb. You know what I'm saying? And one of the reasons I felt I was wearing that was so that I could prove to other Muslims who might be wearing a suit that I'm Muslim. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because if I just come with a shirt and some pants, they just gonna be okay, this guy just black. You know what I'm saying? But that's because of their implicit biases. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So now, I go out of my way when I give khutbahs and lectures to just dress like any guy that you might see walking down the street.
Mm-hmm.
So that when you see the guy walking down the street, you don't just assume he's not Muslim or he's a
Right.
bad guy. You know what I'm saying? And so, that's a decision that I made for myself. My dad was like, boy, you better stop dressing like these non-Muslims. Why you dressing like that? But for myself, I was like, Dad, like it's easy for people to be cool with me when I'm dressed in a certain way, but are they gonna
Mm-hmm.
be cool with me
Mm-hmm.
when I come into the gas station just looking like Ray Ray? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So you know what I'm saying? We want people to be cool with everybody until people give you a reason not to be cool with them. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so
Yeah.
that's kind of trying to tackle those implicit biases that people
Mm-hmm.
don't always realize that they have. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And what gives you inspiration? Just like living each day.
My kids, it's not just my kids, but just the kids in general.
Mm-hmm.
Like they, I mean, they're kids, but they're gonna inherit the world. So we want to make sure that we can kind of leave them something worth inheriting. You know what I'm saying? And it's tough with the global warming and the wars breaking out and you know, but it's a lot of work that we have to do to make sure. Sometimes as Muslims, people can just look at the signs of the day of judgment and they can have this kind of like bleak outlook on life. But all of those signs of the day of judgment, they're coming at the end of times. Like,
Mm.
and every old man has always thought, man, this is the end of time, right? But that every old man says it, but that's not the reality. So we got to make sure that we do what we can to make the world a better place. Just like if I go to the hospital and the doctor says, well, you got high cholesterol, I could be like, well, I'm gonna die anyway. Why should
Mm-hmm.
I try to get my cholesterol numbers down? I'm gonna die. Nobody does that though.
Mm-hmm.
We Everybody knowing that in the end we're going to die, but we try to prolong our life and live as healthy as we can while we're here, and we got to do that for society too. At the end of everything, this is going to be the day of judgment, but until that happens, we got to make sure things are running as smooth as possible for the next generation.